I am Ahmad ibn Tulun, son of a Turkic soldier, raised far from the lush lands I would one day rule. I was born in 835 CE, nurtured in the discipline of the military, the refinement of scholarship, and the wisdom drawn from observing the rise and fall of men in power. My journey began in Samarra, among the soldiers of the Abbasid Caliphate, yet destiny carried me to Egypt, a land that would become the canvas upon which I carved my greatest works. I arrived in Egypt as a young governor, sent by the Abbasids, but I saw something that stirred me deeply. Egypt was rich, strong, and full of potential, yet its wealth was drained by distant hands. Its fields fed others, its gold filled foreign treasuries, and its people lived beneath the weight of corruption. I could not turn away. I told myself, if Allah grants me strength, I will rebuild this land from its foundations. And so I began, not with a sword, but with the heart of a builder, the mind of a strategist, and the soul of a believer. My first great work was the creation of Al-Fusa's new capital, Al-Kai, a city designed for soldiers, administrators, scholars, and common people alike. The Abbasids had their palaces, but I wanted Egypt to have its own center of power, an independent spirit rising from its own soil. Streets stretched in clean lines, markets flourished, and administrative buildings found structure and discipline. Yet it was my great mosque, the Mosque of Ibn Tulun, that would become my signature to the world. Built upon the hill of Yashkur, the place where Prophet Abraham was believed to have passed, I erected a structure that reflected the endurance and vastness of faith itself. Every arch, every corridor, every curve of its spiral minaret was a declaration of a new era for Egypt. I brought architects and craftsmen from across the realm, combining the aesthetics of Samarra with the soul of Cairo. This mosque was not just a place of prayer. It became a center of knowledge, a gathering place for jurists, scholars, scientists, and philosophers. In its vast courtyard, debates echoed, and the minds of the youth awakened. Knowledge, I believed, was a form of worship, but architecture was only a single chapter of my mission. I found the financial administration of Egypt broken, drained by those who cared little for its people. I established Egypt's first independent treasury, a system that kept Egyptian wealth for Egyptian needs. Through justice, discipline, and reforms, within a short time, Egypt's treasury overflowed. I abolished corrupt taxes, protected farmers, and ensured fair distribution of water to the lands. I created a hospital, the famous Bimaristan of Ibn Tulun, one of the earliest complete medical institutions in Africa. Its doors were open to all, rich or poor, traveler or resident, Muslim, Christian, or Jew. Physicians were paid generously and required to treat every patient with dignity. I insisted that medicine was not merely the treatment of illness, but the safeguarding of the human soul. My Bimaristan provided separate wards, a pharmacy, medical records, and regular inspections, a system that would influence hospitals for centuries. I took pride in this, for what greater service can a leader offer than the care of his people's health? But governance extends beyond buildings and wealth. It lies in maintaining order, justice, and protection. I built Egypt's first organized police force, structured with discipline and guided by the principles of fairness. I developed a strong, independent army, not to threaten others, but to safeguard Egypt's autonomy from foreign interference. Under my leadership, Egypt experienced one of its most stable and prosperous eras since the days of the pharaohs. Yet perhaps my greatest achievement was not a structure or an institution. It was the birth of Egypt's independence. For the first time in centuries, Egypt stood tall, managing its own affairs, defending its own borders, and thriving under its own leadership. I was loyal to the Abbasid caliphs in spirit, but I knew Egypt deserved dignity, freedom, and self-governance. And it was my duty to give it that. Throughout my life, I invited scholars to my court, jurists, mathematicians, physicians, and philosophers. I believe that the strength of a nation comes not from its armies, but from the brilliance of its minds. Under my patronage, learning flourished, and Egypt became a center of culture and intellectual growth within the Muslim world. But even in greatness, I remained aware of my mortality. I knew that time would sweep away cities, that rulers would rise and fall, and that glory fades like sunlight at dusk. So I carved my legacy not in gold, but in institutions, justice, charity, and architecture that would outlast centuries. Today, more than 1,000 years later, my mosque still stands, unchanged, unbroken, untouched by time's cruelty. Its walls whisper the story of a man who came from distant lands yet gave everything to Egypt. Its arches hold the echoes of scholars and worshippers from ages past, and its minaret rises like a silent prayer toward the heavens. Ahmad ibn Tulun lived in an age of power, politics, and ambition. Yet my true legacy lies in service, in the hospital that healed the poor, the treasury that uplifted the nation, the mosque that nurtured minds, and the reforms that shaped a civilization. If you walk through the courtyards of my mosque today, the stones beneath your feet may still speak. They will tell you of a man who believed that leadership meant responsibility, courage, and the pursuit of lasting good. And if my voice reaches you now across the centuries, let it remind you that every life, no matter where it begins, can rise to build something that endures beyond time.